Hi, everyone. This is Joanna Michaels and Christopher Stephen Jacobs. And this is a talk that we're going to have for Patreon and related to some historical plus current events with the different races on Mars, I guess. This kind of all came up uh, after Chris started receiving some contact from some uh, human beings, right,
Yeah,
on
our human,
Mars.
yeah, human cousins from Mars and Cassiopeia. Yeah,
Yeah, and then it also came through again um, with um, last night, where it wasn't as pleasant of a conversation with some of the races beings for all kinds of reasons that we'll try to let you understand, and then also continued today as well. And so we thought that we would want to just try and put this information down for posterity's sake, as well as giving you guys the most up to date information that we have about what's really, potentially going out there within our own solar system. So, probably just for those, if you haven't followed us for all these years, um, I probably should give a teeny bit of background for many of you. This is just going to be a couple minute refresher. But, as we've said for many, many years, that, our particular solar system was very, very, very long time ago, let's say, invaded by beings who basically, were put up for extinction from source, let's say, and who decided they wanted to rebel against that and they wanted to continue. And so they actually burst through their expression into this expression. So you've heard that before. When we think about when Mars had an atmosphere and really had a thriving, let's say, civilization, when Maldek existed. So now we're talking over half a million years ago, basically. It wasn't that Mars was this kumbaya type of situation. Maybe a long time before that, there could have been some of it, but they seemed to have a race of human-like people who really wanted to kind of keep to themselves, and they I think, um, made themselves, with some of their ideology, maybe more vulnerable to the negative infiltrations of beings that were coming through that may have, you know, fed their egos a bit, that they were, in a sense, the chosen ones, the golden ones, the ones with the great genetics, or whatever. And so they maybe unwittingly did not realize that they themselves were being utilized to create war, to create different things, um, that contributed to the war, with Maldek and different beings, and at that same time and during that wartime, they themselves lost part of their atmosphere due to weapons discharge. And when you guys look at Mars, you'll actually see this kind of dark streak that comes across on one of the sides of, and that's the weapons that was actually from war. So um, so you again have these beings now throughout time, because there had to be kind of a big transplantation then of beings who were out there. Many of them ended up on Earth, but there are going to be those beings, and when I say beings, I do actually mean right now humans, in one sense, that potentially could trace their ancestry back to being on Mars, and they really do feel they were there. um, At the time, I don't know in their history that they were the only living creatures on Mars, but I think, again, they can trace their lineage back. So, in the midst of all the wars, and this happens sometimes, when a war occurs, when it's a big, huge planetary issue, when weapons are used, when things occur, you could set up, through either nuclear radiation or whatever, you can set up a situation where there's been a lot of destruction, people have to leave, things like that. But there could be surviving elements that then themselves begin to grow and transmute in the new environment. No different than what we've said before, like, for example, the Antiqua that came to Earth. They were on our planet in the magnetic field, and their bodies changed and became denser and stronger due to the magnetics and different stuff that they were now living on. So their descendants began to have a different look. So in that sense, you could potentially create an environment where over, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years, a life form begins to grow and develop, and may even then become what we would refer to as more sentient life force when you have the higher levels, let's say, of consciousness, of thinking and reasoning, and understanding others exist, and whatever. So, and again, as we've said, the one thing that humans are going to have to also understand is that not everything out there looks humanoid. You could have races out there that look like fish or other, what we would consider an animal now on our planet, but they're actually big, evolved, sentient life out there, because the way that life looks is very diverse. So, you have, again, the issue of Mars that's kind of complicated. I know Chris is going to talk about it, and I'm probably going to share more of things that I was holding off on sharing about my thoughts and understandings, as well. For me, the interactions that occurred over the last day, I've cried a lot. I have to tell you, you'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, and I didn't understand. I mean, I've cried, out and out cried. I think I know why I'm crying so much, about it all. And then it was bringing back some, I guess, memories for me of, being there and certain things. But I wasn't crying for, one race versus another race. I was actually upset for them all. I'm just upset about it. And, and I guess I'll explain that. But just to kind of give you a runaround, what's happened over my understanding of what's happened over the last, 500,000 years with Mars, is that you've had races that may not have actually been there as a sentient race prior to the wars. But after the wars, they developed into a sentient kind of race who considers Mars their homeland. And the conditions where they thrive and what they feel is necessary is different than the more human looking sentient life who have, it sounds like, in a sense, came back, if that's correct, and want to now colonize and change Mars back into what it was. And there's conflict, a lot of conflict going on because of that. So I'll stop it there and go ahead and let you say some more, and then I'll contribute more later.
Okay, what is going on here in the past couple of days? Actually, since yesterday, which would have been the 21st August, in case this doesn't air for a bit. We did the Galactic Interstellar Council with a group called the MOSIN, and also you see the after show. You more than likely have already seen this, where the second person was related to Martian Germans. and talking about what was going on Mars, talking about the, say, the cloning facility and the underground base and the species it visit. It's not really, like she said, it was not really like a market like how some people have viewed it. They did trade and do things of that nature. But also, she spoke of a couple species that were on Mars. What was not stated was there is a conflict there as to who actually owns Mars. The Martian Germans believe they own it because they believe it's their birthright, because they were returning to an ancestral homeland. Via back, if you go back through Atlantis and then back to Mars. There is a bug race there that an insectoid species, mantid slash beetle looking. And they're mostly greenish, but they can flip do this rainbow effect to change in camouflage with the conditions there. Back during the end of the Orion Wars, or back about 500,000 or so years ago when Mars got that scar and lost part of its atmosphere, there was nuclear technology used. That's why Mars has such a high radioactive level, indicative of weapons fire. Well, there were bugs that existed then, like we have here. We have cockroaches, we have mantises, and there's even one looking at me through the window here, an actual mantis looking at me, staring at me through the window, literally looking at me. I'm looking in his eyes right now, which that's prophetic in and of itself right there, because those mantises are related, and he's rocking back and forth here now as I'm talking. But he's doing this kind of thing. They do that as a defense move when they think they're threatened. But what happened is, yeah, I can actually feel him staring at me right now. I can actually feel some energy coming off of him. They're in all actuality, they're like kind of the assholes of the bug world, because they'll jump and bite it. They'll jump on you and bite you and everything. But anyway, these particular bugs evolved from something that was already there, and very well could have been planted by other forces many centuries prior. Don't actually know there. That could be a question to ask. But and just like we have cockroaches, beetles, mantises, and various other insects, millipedes. And you even see a variation of this in the Fallout game series, where there are these nuclear radiated cockroaches and all sorts of bugs and insects and stuff like that. It's along those lines. There's a little bit of disclosure there. These beings evolved very quickly by universal standards. Evolved very quickly and morphed into a mantid-like race, and there was also primordial versions that were on Earth too. They attempted to create, as far as I know, progeny here on Earth, and they became animal-like, like this mantis is looking through the window right here, and various other, predatory type animals. Because of Earth's magnetic field and energy field, it was chaotic on their, I don't know if it's on their intellect or whatever frequency they're humming on, but they are extremely radioactive. When people see them bilocate here or here for a brief period, they see green glowing eyes in the dark, and it's like somebody using night vision. I believe they're wearing some kind of bracelet or something like that, or something to keep them from being exposed to our energetic field. If they came here unprotected, they would start to regress and turn back into an animalistic race. It's the Martian Germans' belief that they would have a chance to evolve naturally if they were placed somewhere else.
And so in general, the Martian Germans feel very strongly that they have evolved unnaturally in an unnatural way. And in a sense, they kind of just still see them as lesser than vermin. Now, the whole dynamic, though, about this, and I'm going to refer back now to an interview that we did on the lifting with Tony Rodriguez, because Tony, when he talks about his experiences, and so we've done two, and I actually think it's the first one this is on. I can't remember which one of the two This is on, I feel it's the first one, where if you go back and listen, and Tony talks about his experiences and everything, and then he talks about being kind of programmed to just be this non-feeling, uh, not even soldierish, but non-feeling person that the soldiers used, let's say, to train or do whatever, and he kind of was used as a patsy for them. Um, and one of his experiences during one of those moments of being out there with other soldiers, and he's kind of just bait, it almost sounds like,
Mm-hmm.
that he actually did come into contact with this race of
Insectoid.
insectoid, and and there was an incident. He did have his arm cut off, but then the insectoid. I hope I'm saying this right, but I'll just give you it. He wasn't killed, okay, and then there was a realization from the insectoid that he was more of a victim of circumstances. And it sounded like, from what Tony was explaining, and again, I hope I'm saying this correctly, that there was some form of communication where they were trying to show Tony some of the things that had occurred so that he would understand better who he was versus what has happened to him. And they did not kill him. And there, yes, there was the technology to repair his arm and do what needed to be done. And he recounts that. So again, you're dealing with a race who has some sort of abilities to be able to reason, to be able to read energies, to be able to communicate, to be able to do this, that, and the other. And they were merciful to him, realizing that he was a victim in this as well. And so obviously that's not your normal 2D spider walking around. And one of the questions that we were asking a person who was here, representative of the German Nazis, which, again, their viewpoint was they really do still consider them vermin and they still call them bugs. But do you think that bug now possesses a soul like you and I possess in our bodies? And what does that mean? And even though you're saying it wasn't a natural development, does that even matter now? Are they sentient? Are they in a defensive posture? Are they able to, get along? And again, one of the things that is very true out there in the galactics is there are plenty of worlds where there is only one race. And so Earth is unique. Earth is unique with so many different races on it. There are plenty of worlds that choose that they want their own people. And that's what they have on their planet. And it doesn't mean that they're malevolent. It just is a choice of an experience that they want.
Mm-hmm.
So I bring that out because, again, it's a reference point for people to listen to someone else who had an experience who would tell you that, this isn't just an animal acting on instinct. This is sentient life, true sentient life. And so it's a complicated issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just turn that.
Yeah, it's an incredibly complicated issue because you have a group of Martian Germans and a few other alien, of course, races that are there that we've mentioned in the past, to groups, different groups that interact with humans and such. There are different SSP groups that have gone through there. You also have a group of reptoids that are there. You, of course, have the Draco that are instigating all of this crap. And you have a group of spiders that are more animal-like. That are there that just go around and eat leaves off of plants that are there. They're larger spiders. They're kind of bluish in color, and they go around and just eat the vegetation. And Mars does have vegetation, has water, and it has animal life there still. And it's starting to bounce back after all this time from the conflict. What the Martian Germans want to do is they want to accelerate that process by turning Mars completely into an Earth-like planet. To where normally they're very separatist, but there are some there that want to see other people coming and going, and not all of them. Some of them are the typical, Aryan, but I've noticed some of them are not, and that movement seems to be growing in small increments there. But the ones that are true separatists are this group of insectoids who want the entire planet to themselves and keep it the way it is. I came to find out if it's terraformed, they will die because the Martian Germans know how to get rid of the residual radioactivity in the ground, and they know how to convert it over to an Earth-like planet. And they've tried several times, but the insectoids have destroyed the equipment each time. And there have been skirmishes back and forth between the two parties. Not to even mention all the SSP stuff that's in there that's been that people know about. No, not even excluding, say military patrols that have gone there, either American or Nazi. Excluding those things. These are the things that have been going on. And the yeah, there's a reptoid group there that's actually shorter and green. You've heard me and Ryan mention them, that they're very similar to a group in the Elder Scrolls series he called Boethian, or descendant lineage thereof. They claim territory on Mars. There's a group of salamander-looking, nomadic-looking reptilians that also claim that Mars is their home as well, and they don't want to leave. So it's a very complicated set of dynamics. But it seems the two most powerful groups are evenly technologically advanced are Martian Germans and these insectoids. But the thing of it is, if they would leave, they would start to regress slowly over time. Anyway, even though they have technology to protect themselves, they don't wish to leave. And Martian Germans feel it's their birthright to remain. And so you have these warring factions, and I believe it's a firm belief that the Draco are instigating this ancient rivalry, if you will, and either the birthright of the Martian Germans or the birthright of the insectoid group, and you have these two going at it. Now, do I feel that this is a farm, no different than Earth? Yes. An energy farm? Yes, most definitely. In fact, it's one that I believe was set up first. So the dynamics of it, you have the cloning facilities there that constantly are rebirthing these soldiers to come back and do their thing there. Through the SSP and the Martian Germans, you have there's also these the spider groups here on Earth that the Nazis would like throw bodies to, and children and all this other stuff here, that they live in a different little pocket here on Earth. These are more feral, regressed type of animalistic type ones that aren't as sentient as the other ones. This is how this other group of Germans is viewing this insectoid group. They're seeing them the same as their regressed brethren over here. And so it's a very odd dynamic that is actually taking place. Could the Martian Germans leave? Are they welcome somewhere else? Yes, actually they are. But also on another angle to this, Joanna brought up earlier to me, she believes the bulk of the Nazi party cut these people loose and basically fed them all to the Draco, and the Draco are just hanging around waiting for the moment where the crops are ripe, and they're gonna take all the energy. And I believe Mars is one of the oldest soul traps that's out there. The continuous soul trap that's there, even older than the Earth was soul trap net was instituted. It's an older one. So I believe the Draco are just thrilled with the amount of energy that's coming off of that, and the Orions too. They work hand in hand.
It's hard because I think, for me, why I've been so emotional, you know, I cried for all of them. I mean, because it is very difficult, again, to believe that if you've been brought up into something like you have been, and even if I wasn't convinced of my own feelings about this, something this morning was said that convinced me even more. when there was a conversation going on, and the German Martian said, not only is this birthright, it's a holy place. And when he said the word holy place, I was like, that's no
It turned
different.
into a holy quest,
It's now
yeah.
turned into this holy quest, a different form, let's say, of religion, how religion is used to kind of control and get people to do things. And again, so it, you know, when when the human Germans, let's go back to the real Nazis, when they actually started making, let's say, deals with some of these alien races, long before Truman and them did, long before. Honestly, they've been making deals with them at least probably 100 years before Truman and them ever started.
Yeah, they set the Germans up to be the Draco, and then set the Germans up to be their army.
Well, which would make sense,
Yeah.
because a lot of them actually were the descendants of the ones that were easily manipulated on Mars. It's not a new creation; it's a recreation of an old partnership that benefited the Dracos. But so when all of that really began, you have to remember again, you were dealing with a mindset that some humans had, that they had superior genetics to the others. And in that thought process of having that, they no longer saw, sentient life, other human beings, other races or whatever, as any equal. And they also agreed and understood that there was going to have to be sacrifice for what you gain from us. There's going to have to be sacrifice back. So not only would they be willing to sacrifice other humans into a slave trade or whatever, they also had to learn to be able to sacrifice their own. And, there's been plenty of sacrificial rituals where your number is up and you're part of these lineages, but you're still going to sacrifice a child, sacrifice yourself, sacrifice whatever to these now gods that you're dealing with. So they've been in a mindset of, I am now turning over this to you, Almighty One, because of the technology. Thank you so much. And so the thought that they would actually take a group of themselves, and especially ones that they could manipulate into a mindset of a holy quest that could be manipulated, and they could actually, now put them on Mars, and they could be, oh, this is now our sacrificial group that we're now giving to you for you to harvest energy. Thank you for the next bit of technology that you've given us. And they're off on a whole nother world in a whole nother area that they've already, been on for a while developing. They gave up Mars a long time ago, just like they lost the war. They lost the war on paper, okay, so that they can continue into the future. The one thing that I think that these true evil of these people is that they actually don't hold on to the past. They actually just go for the future. And everything they plan is for the future. They're not trying, their only thing that they hold on to is that their genetics is superior. That's their religion, I swear.
They do hold on to some of their history, though.
Well, I'm not saying they don't, but I'm just saying, they're not, all on Mars trying to do whatever. They're out there. They're out there. They're out there on different planets. They're out there, this, that, and the other. So the concept that they would take a group that even had their own lineage and kind of cut them loose, and then in the mindset of the ones that are the ones that are cut loose is like, no, we're the kinder, gentler ones. We're the kinder ones. We would let other humans come on. This is what they say. They would, and I'm like, well, then you're not really probably made of the cloth that the real Nazis are looking for if you actually would be willing to commingle. You're probably cut loose and you don't even realize it. So I've shed a lot of tears over this for both sides, because I don't feel either one of them I could be totally wrong. But I feel so strongly about it. And like I said, I didn't feel as strongly about it until what was said earlier this morning. Then it just kind of made me feel even stronger that, I cry kind of for both of them. Which, potentially means by the time humans get there, like it was once told to us, by the time humans get there, we would see the bones of it all. So I'm not really sure, but I can tell you that for me, and some of the memories that I have being there, um, I I don't believe I was there because I wanted to be, because all I could think about, in some moments that I had where I tried to get away from people, is how to get off. I just remember I was kind of even horrified. I'll just tell you a few things. One of the, interesting memory sequences that I have, about Mars. And I really haven't shared this because, some of it is so mundane, but apparently mundane is important. And on that particular day that I remember, there was a rival, and it felt like to me that this was like arrival and the opening of a new housing complex, as if this were military housing or something like that. This is now open. So I, go in, and I'm on a very small underground, um, I would say it's almost capsule like, but in something that would be considered their train system, their subway system, something like that. And there were seats on two sides with a row in between. I was sitting in there with a bunch of other, I would just say it would be the same thing as being with a bunch of military families. So you got the mother with the kids, things like that. And how were they acting? Well, they were acting no different than if you were sitting on a bus with them with mothers with bunches of kids. There would be, normal, would everyone just be sitting there necessarily quiet? No, the kids are being kids and this, that, and the other. So it was going on. But there was excitement because it was moving into a new place to live. And so there was that kind of excitement going on as well. And I even remember sitting on the train quietly and I'm looking at all of them and I'm the one that's horrified. I'm the one that's going, I don't know why was this, you guys have no clue what's going on, or, something like that. But I was actually kind of, not happy to be there, and and anything. Then I remember, there was basically all this walking around, looking at everything. So the let's say the halls, I don't know what else to say. The halls were, busy with a lot of activity, and I do remember specifically turning around, and there were two men that I could not see their faces clearly, that were a foot taller, literally. So if you think about the tallest people there, and literally their neck started here, and they were even taller, that there were two tall ones talking, walking amongst everybody. And for some reason, I also knew those two were in charge. I knew those two were in charge, but I could not see their faces clearly at all. They were just blurs, for my memory. I also remember now going into quarters. And the quarters that I went into, I was with a male and a child. Now, I understood I was with the male, but I can't tell you I had all these great loving feelings. It was almost as if I'm with this male, this is my lot. I don't know how to say that any better. And then I knew the child wasn't mine. So I'm assuming this child, who I would say was maybe 8 or so, was his. And it was kind of simple. I'm in the bedroom and I turn to the side and I see what we would refer to now, it's a bedside commode. Okay. What was interesting about the bedside commode that was there is that all around the bedside commode to one side were little let's say poop bomb little things that I would say they were in, like we would say plastic. I have no idea what they're in, but it was blue, and it was all the air was squeezed out of it. So you just had this little round blue bomb, and then the top was tied in a knot. And so little, no maid, no trash can. There's just all these packages like that sitting by the bedside commode. And I noticed that. And then I turn around and I see the young boy in what I guess I would consider the bathroom area, on top of what I would consider a sink. And the sink had a hole in, let's say, the center. And here's the little boy now on the top, but he's squatting down just like Asians squat down oftentimes to use the restroom, because they have usually a hole and they still do that. And he was peeing into that hole. And I was just like horrified. What is this boy doing? And the male that I was with took me into the bathroom, and that sink, that to me in my mind was like a sink, you know, it was just that hole. There were no true sinks with running water, and it was like a accordion that was like a step down. So this is like the side view, an accordion like a step down, all the way down, and the hole is at the top. Okay, so when you're staring at it, it's like steps, okay, going up. And the male that I was with pulled it off, and I know what went through my mind is I'm like, look how flimsy that looks, but that boy was able to, his weight, he didn't fall through it. It didn't fall apart. It didn't fall off, but he easily lifted the whole compartment. And what it was when the pee went in there, that it would go from a bowl that to me kind of, I guess I thought it was water. Maybe it wasn't water at all, but there were things in it, kind of cucumber shaped things in it. And then it would then go from there to another bowl with stuff in it, and another bowl, and another bowl, and another bowl. And basically what I was being told is that the urine was being transferred through this process of back into clean water. And but it was but that was just kind of one of my experiences there. And then I remember also being out and looking out these big pane windows, and in one area it was like the German mountain that had construction equipment, because there's still a lot of construction going on where things were being, I guess, built into the mountain. And then down the hall further, I thought it was the weirdest thing ever, because I'm looking out a window, and I do that in quotes because I really wasn't looking out a window of this big panorama, almost like looking at a lake with docks and some boats. But that wasn't really looking out anything. That was just a big, huge, picture that made you think that's what you were looking at, how pretty it was, or this, that, and the other. And it was huge. It was huge because it made everything look like it could have been lifelike outside. And then somehow the next vision I had, it's like I had gotten away from everybody, and I had gone, let's say, underground to an area that would remind you of an eatery of a huge shopping mall. So all these seats, you would just think you were in a huge mall, and you're sitting in their eatery with all their different choices of places to eat and this, that, and the other. But at that current present moment, I was the only one in there. And, and at that time, as I'm there, having a bit of a panic attack, because I'm like, how do I get out of here? And that's really kind of what my feelings were. How do I get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
And I could not understand why these people were so excited. It's like, my sense of, if you only knew, or I don't even know, but I was so upset for them. And then another vision that I had, that I don't know if it's related to Mars or not, another upsetting one for me, was going to the only way I could describe it would be going to different outposts. And I don't know if this was, if I was not in charge, there was someone else in charge. It was a female who I was around, and I was going to these outposts. And the one thing that amazed me again that I was in awe of is, I knew I was concerned. I was afraid they were starving to death. And, and they were trying to reassure me not. And I opened this drawer, kind of would remind you of opening a compactor. You just kind of open this drawer, but it wasn't a compactor. It's where food was stored. And for whatever reason, the food wasn't rotten. So it was kind of more fresh produce, but it was not refrigerated, but it wasn't rotten. And I remember thinking in my mind something silly like, this hasn't gone bad. And I think it's because obviously new technologies, to not need refrigeration
That
like
would be
that.
like a stasis thing where you could convert a wooden cabinet or something into somewhere where you could store foods in, and it would just look like a normal drawer or a
Yeah.
normal, and there would probably be little micro dot type of things in there making a stasis field or something in there, and
But
you wouldn't see them.
yeah, so I remember being amazed, but I know during this visit, and again, I was not in charge. I felt though I was trying to ask questions or whatever, to really get how they were feeling. Like you're starving, the whole group of you, the whole lot of you. Aren't you going to say anything? Aren't you going to advocate for yourself? Aren't you going to do whatever? And they were just, no, we're fine, no, whatever. And whomever I was with, female again in charge, I just remember, just kind of looking at her going, you know, thinking to myself, this is this okay to you? I was just kind of like, in a state of shock. And again, who are you? Are you trustworthy? All these things that were going through my mind because of the state of affairs that I was seeing. And I don't know if that, I'm assuming, I do not know if that was on Mars, but it came up in me again today, so there may be a connection. So again, for me, with my experiences and everything, and with this as well, that I have grave concerns for those races, human or non-human, that are there, because I do feel very strongly that this has been a planet of war for eons, a very long time, and that's the energy that is there, and that's the energy that's being actually now, the playa is being allowed to continue to harvest more energies, and they don't realize that they are a part of that. That's in some hard for them to realize that they now are the victims of that, all of them.
Now, do I believe when say the Draco and them are absent? Do I believe that Mars could be salvaged? Oh yeah, I do believe it could be turned into a thriving metropolis or a thriving epicenter. But as it stands currently, it's a soul trap. And with the way that things are there, with the skirmishes that take place, I have memories of being there, knowing that it was Mars, that these salamander reptilians would harass some of the military and SSP folk that would go through their territory. They'd even grab them and beat them up, and just because they felt it was funny. They'd even laugh at you. They'd go, anytime they laugh at you. Some people depict them with almost like a longer snout, kind of like the Draco in some ways. But these guys have more of a, they have a pushed in face. They have a salamander like look, like if you see like a lake or a river salamander, where they have this like almost like they're smiling look, but for them it's pushed in a little bit, and they're brown maroon color, kind of like almost like the color of the tea right here. It's like this, and they blend in with the rocks. Like if they were saying Sedona, they'd have probably a little more red look to blend in. But that's the environment you're dealing with. Is something like Sedona where they lived, and the memories I have are them harassing soldiers that they felt were weaker. They are telepathic and they are telekinetic in nature, and they loved to harass ones they thought were wussies and stuff like that. It wasn't, like the Draco. The Draco were just outright evil. These guys were bullies, but they weren't. They wouldn't eat you like the Draco would, or they wouldn't steal your energy. These guys weren't energy thieves or meat thieves. They were just assholes. So that's some of the memories I have of patrolling in my suit. With other contingents and having to stop and step aside because of the stress involved, and having to look around and then all of a sudden being jumped by a couple of these guys. They were taller than us. I'd say they were closer to about 7 feet at least, and they at first I mistook them for Draco, but then they were another group that lived there. I believe they transmitted that to me in some way that they actually lived there. They claimed some of the mountain passes and territories of Mars. I don't know if I ever made contact with the Reptoid slash Boethian group at all. I just am aware of their existence. And the other spider animals, I may have seen some of them in passing. I don't remember, but I do have vivid memories of the salamander-like ones that were there, and that would blend in. They could shift along the wall, and you wouldn't see them unless you heard them slide against the rock, or unless you actually were looking right at them or something. Very good, well camouflaged. But also in the open, they would wear hoods. They would be almost like monk looking in a way. Kind of creepy, actually. But they claim Mars as their own, or at least parts of it. Do I think everybody, minus all the soul trap crap, could they coexist there? Yeah, I think in time they could.
It's hard because both of them made their presence here. One actually did it in a very, you would think, offensive, but I'm sure in their minds they were being defensive posture, because from their perspective, I'm sure each one of them wanted us to take their side,
mm-hmm.
and to try and then communicate to all of you in a way that would take one side or another. And as I was talking to Chris this morning, I'm like, well, why? We're, Chris, who are we? We don't wield all this power. But Chris's only thought was, of course, that we would potentially be able to sway people's co-creative processes, that would assist over one side over the other.
And I can feel them both watching in their own respects right now.
I mean, but you may, you guys may, I don't do that. I cry for both of them, and, or for all of them out there, because, of what's been done and how potentially, everybody's been used. If they want a war, just don't bring it on my doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
I feel very strong. I was telling Chris, and why I get so emotional and I'm welling up now is because I think when I was there before, I think more than anything what's being brought up is all my emotions from being there. And I feel like maybe I've had this conversation before where I was desperately trying to get people to leave and not be a part of this. And, maybe some did, but for whatever reason, some feel that they can't. And I would not like to see any race or any being be harmed, because I can't stand the fact that they're being used to actually just elicit energies that someone else is reaping the benefit for. And I do feel very strongly about that. And like I said, I do feel very strongly that some very good, decent people and beings, have been manipulated. And so that's my stance on this. And so, my co-creative skills are still going to be as they always were. And this is where the only thing I can say is I wish everyone their highest good, whatever that is. I can't say what their experiences are meant to be. Maybe they're meant to experience a period of time as a being to be on a warring planet. Maybe when, as a soul, they reflect later on, they will have learned a lot. Maybe they're meant to learn a lot. I don't know. I don't know. Um,
Yeah, and
but
what's been happening around here? Like I said, post Galactic Interstellar Council contact with the Martian Germans, the other faction decided to make their presence known, as she said, in more of what they would have figured a defensive posture. Because during the council meeting, there was a figure, you'll hear me refer to him as having a flamethrower protecting a property. And he seemed very kind to me, and the others seemed very kind to me. And but he was repelling some bugs that were trying. But he said, kept saying, "Well, they're bugs. I'm repelling them." And he stood there the whole 3 hours we had the show, so that they wouldn't disrupt the show. Well, this so that's the next, or that night, or last night rather, which would have been the 21st. This is the 22nd. Um, they made their presence known quite heavily to us. The bugs did, or the insectoids did. I don't even know their actual race name. Um, and even insectoid is a nondescript, because there's so many different insectoid types out there. But what they did was, I was sitting on the couch and she had fallen asleep, and I look over and I see these green glowing eyes looking at me, um, staring at me from the corner. And I knew there was more than one there, but that was the one that made their presence known the most, was this specific one. And very angry, very hateful, and trying to get into my face like they usually do. And from their perspective, it was defense, not necessarily retaliatory, but defense. Well, that night after that happened, when I was asleep, the dream that came to me as I was being chased through dreams. You hear us talking about the insectoids being the dreaming bugs, and that's what the forest people like to call them too. What took place was I was led to a book, which I believe was me accessing the Vanilla Nikejik records, and I saw this purple, green, and bluish looking like insectoid that was in this book. Me being shown what they actually looked like completely, and then some looked like beetles, other ones looked like green mantises, and of course, the spiders, and some other ones looked like regular spiders too, but that were more sentient. And I saw all of these these guys in this, and I remember explaining to them in the sequence, because I knew they were listening. It's like they're listening now. And I said, well, why can't you coexist with people there? And they believe that the whole planet was theirs, and that they would thrive just being a one civilization planet, and they would be more loving and kind to people here. They believe that the Martian Germans were more of the invaders, and the Martian Germans believe, of course, they came from there, their ancestry came from there. So both sides aren't budging. And I said, well, what about if you would go to a different planet? And they said they would have ill effects on them, because they depend on the conditions of Mars to survive, and the Martian Germans are wanting to terraform it, and that would end up killing them. And they were quite adamant they were never going to leave. That the Martian Germans had an option of actually leaving, and they didn't. That they could go to another planet somewhere and be fine. And they were taking a stand there, didn't need to. That and the Martian Germans said, well, we created all this infrastructure, we created this history, this is our birthright, we're staying here. And that's where that's at with them, as far as I know. But the insectoids showed up, and I can feel them listening. They've been dropping this sleepy field on me all day now, and wanting to chomp at the bit to actually talk, since the Martian Germans spoke yesterday. Um, and they feel that the Martian Germans have spoken enough, and they want to talk now. And I'm not too keen to do that, actually. Uh, I know I gave you guys a voice in Japan when we were there, but those were more steady energies there, and you did speak in front of a crowd in Japan. I remember very clearly one of the beetle looking groups actually came in and spoke to to us. It is my firm belief that both groups are trying to gain favor with people here, and they are trying to get mass co-creation to one side or the other. And I simply won't do that. I say it's a situation now that is more complex than one species, one planet. And I know you can hear me as I'm talking. That everyone has to just coexist and stop bickering and fighting. They have to coexist, and that's that. You know, you can set up your segregated areas and even have the atmospheres you want. If the Martian Germans want a terraformed section, they can have it. You know, if the lizard people want their cold mountains, they can have it. If the bugs want their underground tunnels and their hives, they can have it. You know, to me, I'm not seeing a humongous issue here, other than national pride.
However, there are plenty of planets where it is a single race. So I keep going back to that because this idea that the only option is to get everybody to coexist on a planet, it is not the only option. And
No.
Earth is unique. So I don't think it's fair to, have people think that that is like the
It's not the
only option.
template.
It is an option. It is
Yeah.
not the only
The
option.
humans like to think that it's the same everywhere else, and Earth is an extremely unique place
Right.
that has multicultural. And Maldek was a very unique situation too. But everywhere else, it seems to be one race, one planet. They were even making fun of this in the show South Park one time, where they kept saying, "What, do you think this is the same everywhere?" No, it's usually one race, one planet. You know, somebody even said it in that show too.
Mhm.
You know, so I found that interesting. They added that little bit to the disclosure. But yeah, the it's a very complex situation there. And who is it that is looking at me? I know there's this cute little mantis on the window over here that is looks like he keeps looking in all directions and then looks at me and then looks in all directions, looks at me, and then it's like he's guarding the window or something. And in my face here, I'm seeing a mantis head right here. I'm seeing a Martian German over here. And these are the two representatives of these groups. And the insectoid person is, yes, I regard you as a person. All right.
Well,
All right.
as a sentient,
Oh,
life force race, it's
oh,
not an insult.
but and also the Martian German that is here. His name is Gielan. And I believe this is how I believe set up from yesterday's council. You had Jarlin, who was the original Mosen, descendant of the Mosen people that were here, English, British type, and went back and forth between Mosen and Earth. And then you had, what's her name? Let me see again. Where's that note? Yasin, and she was integrated into the German people, became even a Martian German. Blonde hair, blue eyes, was born into that culture. Then you have Gielan, who I believe is purely Martian German. I'm getting a nod to that, yes. He's actual Martian, born Martian German. Okay. All right.
So really, the question is, I know we threw in our feelings overall of what we think going on. You may not agree, and that's okay. That's not related to the question.
Mhm.
Historically, what we've spoken about how the mantid race or bug race developed, and also the with the human Martians that are there now. I feel we accurately told in a very short amount the history we're not trying to misrepresent. So I would hope both of you can agree that what little we spoke about history was actually presented um, in a way you both can accept is not falsified.
Galen says it's our interpretation, but it's not wrong. Uh, the insectoid person. What is your name? Don't yell at me. What is your name? Is that all you're going to do is scream at me? See, this is the reception I get from them. This is why I'm usually not too keen on bringing insectoid races through.
That's fine, but do you agree that once the wars took place, that's when your race began to really develop at a very fast rate, comparatively?
They don't deny this.
Okay, that's really the question. We're not trying to misrepresent, your history. I understand that my feelings that you both have been put into a horrible situation. You may not agree with that. We'll all agree that we may not agree in that. That is my interpretation. It's why I feel so badly for all of you, because I do feel that you've been put into your groups have been put into a horrible situation on a planet that's been used for war for so unbelievably long that the planet itself is now corrupted in that energy. So that is my belief. All I knew is when I was there, I want it off.
Mm-hmm.
And
the energy there, I know, is pretty horrible because of all the wars. Think of it. Mars, to mar means to harm. Also associated with Ares, the god of war. It couldn't be any plainer than that. It's named after also Mars, the Roman god of war. So just like Ares, Greek god of war. So it's always been associated with war, conflict, and death. So do I believe that can be turned around? Yeah, I do. Slowly, possibly, but yes. But it's accumulated so much of that death energy. It's a monumental task, but I do believe it could happen. And insectoid, you can stop touching my chest now. Thank you. All right. I did not invite you in here. All right, let me see. Yes, apologies, but I know you're tapping my crystal here because you want to talk. How can I trust you? Normally, in recent weeks, anytime I've encountered an insectoid, it's been under hostile conditions. So why would I want to subject myself to that? I know I gave the Martian Germans a voice. They proved to me they had an open heart space and they had a passionate side. So I'm asking you to do the same, and do you accept an audit from true benevolent source creator as of this time, and you are not omitting anything. You are not omitting anything, and you accept an audit. All right, you passed. Do members of your society know you're a hive mentality, and whoever your telepathic, let's say, handler or father figure I'm sensing out there is, or the collective mind that is operating for me, do they do as well? Yes. All of you? I sense an entire beam in this direction. Do you? I'll ask one more time. All right. No more conflicts. I don't want to be poked in my back in the middle of the night. I do not want to be bitten on my neck by mandibles just because your butt hurt. We've had enough of this crap. Understood? Otherwise, I'm giving Gielan over there permission to roast you. All right. Who wants to go first? Gielan? He said it first. So let's see. Then what is your name? What is the name of your race or your individuality? What is your name? Hang on, I'll write that down so I don't forget it. It is Bug. person. All right, don't scream. What is your race's name? You consider bug to be a slur. Okay. What? Okay. Insectoid is fine, but bug carries anger and weight. Okay, thank you. Let's see. He calls himself Safin. Safin, is that your name? You have individual names, not a hive collective. Uh, Still hive collective telepathically. All right. Soften. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Galen or Galen, I'm not sure. Galen. Or kind of like Galen, but it's Galen. Okay. All right. Do you want to speak first? And then let Soften come in. But if he causes any trouble, no, you know what to do. All right. Galen, if you could go through the crystal, please. The same goes for you, Soften, when the time comes. You'll be short, Galen. Okay. And I heard other Martian Germans making fun of him, going, "He is short. That's why he's in a big suit." See, they joke around. They're actually not. Some of them aren't that bad. So, okay. Okay. Yes, Galen. Thank you. All right. He was proving to me he was all right. Still, all right. This is interesting that we are put in this position. I am Galen, and yes, I was born on Mars, and do I carry the name of Martian German? Indeed, not necessarily Mosin, like the other two, but we do carry a cousinship with them, yes. The reason I have such a passion for a place you call Mars is because there is hidden beauty there. Some people would see a moonscape or a sandscape or a litter box, as it were, and want to transform it. Now, do we wish to terraform it? Yes, to give it back its atmosphere that was stolen from it. And do we wish to clear any residual radioactivity and make it so that we can breathe and have rain and have clouds and have trees? Yes, of course. Very much like our ancestry in Germany. But here on Mars, was it always like this to some extent? Yes, there was running water, there was streams, there were trees at one point. There are old drawings and paintings and literature of what it used to look like, and it was all here in a vault when it was found here, in an old historic vault. This is our heritage. This is where we came from, even though the old Orion wars were ugly, very ugly. This can be undone. Despite what the Draco may have planned, and I do agree this is their deviousness. And do I believe others of my kind are even worse? Yes, they have proven this 1,000 times over. I do not share their misgivings of all their colors, sizes, and shapes. No. I am not ignorant in that way. But the fact that these insectoid want us off their planet so badly shows that they do not wish to coexist. Yes, do we know how they were formed? Of course. Was it through nuclear fusion? Yes. And has that sprung unnatural mutations in history? Yes, it has. In humans as well. However, I am willing to talk on this subject because it seems of great importance to you all here. However, on the flip side, I would say the attacks on our colonies must cease, and we cannot be expected to leave our ancestral land. As he has said, unity, but also being in the areas you wish to be, or as you would say, this is where you are. This is quite agreeable to us. It is not agreeable to them. They wish dominance over the whole planet, even though they do not have the numbers to run an entire world. We see that at times they show evidence of altruism and kindness and compassion. We leave those ones alone, the ones that continue to onslaught and to attack our soldiers and our units and our colony. This is not something we wish to see continue. They see it as in defense. We also see it as in defense. But yes, have I said that they are like vermin? Yes, because they act like it. They act as if they do not contain the sentience they claim. One with sentience, with no strategy, that would know, as you would call them, workarounds. Do I know Mars is an old, you say, soul trap? Yes, I have seen evidence of this myself. And I know of the cloning facilities. And dear Yasin knows of the cloning facilities on Mars and has seen your secret space program in operation. She has even helped with it in some respects. And I have walked beside Earther people before, in battle and otherwise. Do I wish peace? Yes. Do I wish coexistence? Of course. Even though our people do not have the reputation of coexistence, we do concede to that. All we ask is the same. Some of our people on Mars don't see things that way at all. We are divided within the same group, you see. We are changing ever slowly to a non domineering mindset. But we wish our history to still remain intact. Not necessarily just anchoring to the past, looking towards the future and looking towards what this system could become. I will now take questions.
Honestly, it is very hard for me to formulate some questions. I'll be quite honest. My feeling is that if it's not with you, with someone else, this is a repeated conversation that I've had with somebody. I don't know.
Mm.
I hope you feel my sincerity, that I genuinely care about all of you, that it is real. And I do also care about the other race and races that are there. You know, I just, I don't know what the right answer would be for all of you guys. I honestly don't feel that with the problems that we're having on Earth, that, we're actually in a position to know what is right. So I don't know why the goal would be to come here to try and solicit help when we're in such a cluster as we stand. Um, but I can tell you, um, I can tell you, I genuinely wish you your highest good, whatever that is, for whatever experience your soul's supposed to have. Um, would do it for anyone. I'm pretty consistent with that. So I just honestly just want you guys to have the moment you've asked to say whatever it is that you wish to say from your perspective. That's all.
Yes. All right. Then, are there aspects of your planet still controlled by your Nazis? Yes. And do we brandish the uniforms and the look of them? Yes. But you will see a variant, as you would say, of opinions and ideals. It is not as cohesive as the original was. Hitler was wrong for what he did. Is he still alive and kicking? Yes. This is unfortunate. We do not answer to the Fuhrer. We answer to our unity as a people. Are there Nazis on other planets outside your system? Yes. Are they conducting experiments there? Yes. And it is up to all of you to eventually root them out. Do we know where they all are? No. I am of a descendant lineage that came after of the original colonies. I'm not as old as I would appear in my voice. But they are also still haunting your system and your planet, and may for some time, even after certain changeovers take place, as dear Jarlin has stated in your interstellar council. He also stated that certain contracts had to play out unless certain things were shattered. This is still a truth we cannot necessarily tamper with. But the reason for the outreach in this way. And do I believe there are some underhandedness in other aspects of our people? Yes. And the Draco in them? Yes, because they collect certain energies, yes. But co-creative need is what is being spoken about by both ends. But as you say, as in he said, coexistence and adding to unified energies. Now, despite my better judgment, I will let this being speak. But no harm is to come to them. No harm in the mental and the physical or the environmental. Yeah? Yeah, I recognize you as an individual with your name intact, but no question that I am watching. I will switch over to him now. Greetings. My name is Safin, and I am here to speak upon the fact that the aggressiveness and the defensiveness of our people is justified, though we have had to resort to things that we do not wish. We do wish to interact with people on an equal basis, just not with them living on our world. Matters not the birthright of others. Would any of your countries on your planet not think the same? Like, say, you're Japan, you're China, or you're some of your African nation states, or even some of your Roman nation states. Though that is an ill comparison because they have committed atrocities. I digress. The consciousness in which is focused this way will cease its hostilities, as we are seeing that you are not the manipulators in this situation. But a warning: do not interfere in affairs that do not concern you. We wish peace, but we also wish our solitude. I know others are saying the same. And we do wish to interact with people, no question, but on our terms. Though we were created by what they say is an accident, aren't you all? Aren't you all created by what someone somewhere would consider to be a cosmic accident? Though it is an experiment, a grand experiment, wouldn't certain things be considered mutations and accidents to someone? That is all I will say. If you have questions.
Soften, it wouldn't be fair if I asked you questions when I really wouldn't for the other. I really am desperately trying to show neutrality in all of this. I think you maybe, hopefully, can feel that I feel the same towards you all.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'll be just quite frank. I hope I'm not speaking to ghosts. What we've experienced before, unfortunately, is finding out that what actually came to us were past and not current. Mm-hmm. So I hope you all are still there. I hope that for your highest good, like I hope theirs, and I hope for a resolution that still honors the fact that you both exist and have the right to exist. I do. I really, really do. But that's just my personal feeling. But I will not ask you any questions. I will only leave it for you to state whatever you would like to.
Mm. I was elected as as you would say, figurehead and intentions of my group, though there are time delays in here with anyone speaking from Mars. Gillen is here on the Earth with you. I am projecting from as you would say, distance away. Though there are rotationary differences in our worlds, there are time differences and differentials. I am uncertain as to if we are syncing up in the correct time continuums. Time will tell if that is true and if we are speaking to you from what you call the past. I personally cannot tell. I just know when our collective has intentions aimed our direction and in the rotation and planetary alignments therein. But I can tell by certain vibrations that Earth is much more vibratory, being this close. Just know the hostilities will cease. But we do wish respectful communications and that of non-hostility on the part of people you call trench workers. Some of our people are not always acting, as you would say, nice. Some of them are offshoots of our kind. There are many, as you would say, insectoid types. Ours is slightly different than other mantids and other beetles and spider types. Some are more feral, while other ones are shorter, some are taller, and some have unstable emotions, while others are more, you would say, sophisticated. Some even have more of a human-like form with an insect head. These are all different variants on what you call a theme. That doesn't necessarily mean we all work together and have the same goals and agendas. Ours is a simple one: sovereignty of planet. Thank you. Whew. Whew. He was holding back quite a bit, but he wanted to curse the Martian Germans out quite a bit. He wanted to go off on a tangent, but
I'm sure the Martian German did too.
oh yeah, Gielan wanted to as well. So they both wanted to go. They wanted to go back and forth. And they knew that would be a strain, so they didn't do that. They wanted to present their arguments in more of a logical way. And they're still. Oh, you're leaving. Oh, thank you, guys. Thank you, Gielan. Thank you, Safin. And Safin, did you bring this little mantis up to the window here? Yes. They're related to you, yes? I know your kind attempted to create certain insectoid species here in different variations, either sea or land, and they both turned into animal-like races, yes? Mm. So yeah, they're highly technological. They can communicate long distances through telepathy if the planetary alignments are correct and the energy is correct. That's why in Japan, we were able to reach them, or at least a member of their society, because the energy was cleaner there where we were standing. So that's why they were able to come through. But they fought to come through this time because of the circumstances. But and Keelan and Sofin, your positions are respected. So if you wish further communications, I don't see a problem. So there's been no soul or energy theft here at all. I'm not saying to anybody listening to this that you willfully reach out to beings on Mars just to have a conversation. It's the Wild West there. It's dangerous. You don't know who you're going to get. If you're aimlessly reaching for anyone there that'll talk, don't do that. You might run into
not wise to do in general.
No. There's a lot of Draco there that run around in the outlands, and there's the reptiles in the hills and everything there. There's a variety of hostility there. Like I said, the Wild West. So I just be careful, and I would advise not doing that. So I believe we could end this here. That we've gone on quite a while. Thank you, everybody, for watching this discussion with us today on this. And hopefully this is giving you a little insight onto what's actually going on there on Mars. I believe this is concurrent. This feels concurrent to me. I could be wrong because of the timeline shifting.
I don't know. I don't have any idea, but it's not like it hasn't happened before that we thought we were speaking
to someone in the present. It was way in the ancient past.
In the past, and I do like you feel that this was going on in my experience when I was there. I guess what I'm saying now is my concern that we were told at one time that by the time humans reach Mars, we'll just see the bones of Mars. And I don't know what that means, if that is actually, just a potential, or whether or not it's what really, happens.
If we show up and all of these people are dead, we don't know.
And or all the races, but it's just, it's just hard. I think all that we can do, which hopefully will help them resolve their issues, is just wish for all of their highest good. And I think the nicest thing that we can do for them all. Well, we can't resolve their problems. I do feel there's always more than one way to deal with a problem, but it's not, in a sense, our issue. It's their issue, and we just respect them and want them all to have whatever their highest good is supposed to be.
Yes, as do I. Yes, whatever that is. Thank you everybody for watching us. So when we get more information, we'll tell you on this subject. So thank you to both parties here and other parties that are actually listening, that elementals and such are listening to this as well. There's a couple gnomes listening in on this as well, so I can see them just curious. So seeing as to why these two parties were even standing there, and I think they're in shock that there's two even there. So okay, and they're saying if this carries on cordially like that, that would be a miracle. So thank you for that, Mr. Gnome person. What's your name? Leiden? Leiden? Okay. Hi, Leiden. Okay. You're just you're a tree gnome of some sort. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you're a sylph gnome, the one with all the hair. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Leiden. Well, you're just wanting to tattle on what was going on. Okay. I think you're a child, actually. Okay. Let's see. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Bye bye.